Look okay? How are we doing? No sound. Yeah, I forgot to turn my mic on. It should be on now. How are we looking? Yay. We working? We all good? Okay, so we'll just chat for a little bit and then we'll see who shows up. And then aim of today is to talk about how to save your knees. So we'll save your knees and then we'll take some questions from you guys and we'll see how we go from there. Rosie Codex, I built a quarantine grappling dummy. How'd that go? Was it good? Are you actually using it? What are you doing with it? And keep the answers clean. A hoodie, couch cushion, and 3 towels. Okay. So we'll just see. Oh, we got 10 guys watching. So if you're watching, then chime in the comments. Tell me who's here. Tell me where you're watching from. Tell me what you're up to. We'll chit chat for a few minutes, and then we'll see who's here. I can practice the 360 drill Kimura traps. Cool. Well, you know, if your grappling dummy is working and you can do some stuff with it, then fantastic. Yeah, awesome. So let's see. Right here on my phone that we're going to talk about. Feel free at any point to, you know, chime in with some comments, you know, things that I've missed, things that you do that, you know, I may not have thought of. And we'll see where we go. So I'll give it a couple minutes and we'll see. Just Jay, yo, how's it going? People are showing up now. People are posting. So again, yeah, if you can hear me, post in the comments. If you've got a question for later, post in the comments. I'll go back over all the comments and I'll try and make sure I get around to everyone. So how's it going, Just Jay? What have you been up to? Oh, man. I had water, and now I don't have water. Okay. We'll figure that out as we get partially more and more dehydrated. Oh, okay, here it goes. Saved from the dehydrations. Inversion. You've been inverting? Oh, so you've been hanging upside down to help with neck problems, is that it? Protecting knees when practicing double legs. Oh, man. Okay, yeah, so yeah, that'll come into it. Various things here. When you hit the double leg, is it the impact of hitting the ground that's causing the knee problem, or some sort of position when we're doing it? Oh, really? You're getting a bad lag? Okay, so smashing these. Is anyone else getting a lag with the stream? My internet should be good now. Tell me if it still sucks. Ooh, perfect here. Little lag. Okay, a little lag we can deal with. So it's probably not on my end. It's probably just a YouTube thing. A little lag is normal. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it could be your internet. I think a little lag, probably to be expected, but loads of lag should be okay. Everything looks cool here. I'm plugged into my router, so we should be good. All right, so lucky 13 people watching, 1 thumbs up. Cool. All right, so let's talk about knee injuries. So in terms of video lag, audio fine. Yeah, it's probably just, the way it is. So in terms of knee injuries, 2 big issues with knee injuries. So I've got my notes here, so I'll make sure I don't forget anything. It comes down to 2 mechanics of injuring your knee. The first being impact injuries, and the second being positional injuries. Usually with knees, that's rotational injuries, as opposed to over straightening. Especially in jiu-jitsu, we tend not to see tons of over straightening injuries, unless people are jumping on top of your knees in guard, which can happen, and which is why they banned jumping guard for white belts. So we'll talk about impact injuries to begin with. Impact injuries are one of the easiest things to fix, and that's things like, you're hitting your double leg and you're smashing your knee off the ground. You're playing a lot of guard top and you're kneeling down a lot. It's basically, you're getting housemaid's knee. So you end up with swelling of the knee, you end up with pain around the joint, inflammation, and it just makes general training suck because you've got housemaid's knee. And all of the treatments for housemaid's knee apply to impact injuries in jiu-jitsu. Maybe you clashed knees with someone. Usually it's not you clashing against someone else. Usually it's you clashing with the ground. Okay, or just general wear and tear of, I've been kneeling for a long time. So not that traumatic banging into the ground, but just over time, multiple hours of leaning on your knees, and you end up with this inflammation. So it's actually one of the easiest ones to fix. Get off your knees, and that's just good advice in nearly every position. Okay, get off your knees, get onto your toes. Okay, so certain positions you're not going to be able to avoid getting off your knees while playing that position. For example, you can't be in closed guard top and not be on your knees unless you start standing up, which is what I recommend. I recommend getting out of these positions, getting to positions where you're on your feet again, and not spending a ton of time kneeling down. So if you're getting the housemaid's knee type situation where you've been spending too long in these positions, the simple answer is don't spend time with your knees on the ground. Okay, if you're impacting the ground, try and change to not impact the ground. All right, so if you're hitting that double leg and every time you're dropping super hard to that knee and it's banging into the ground, well, you need to maybe rethink that position. Maybe you need to look at types of double legs that involve not dropping the knee to the ground. Okay, if you can do all of that, you're probably in good stead anyway. Especially if you're in positions like side control or something, pinning positions like that. You don't want to be on your knees in most of them in general. Okay, you want to be applying pressure to your opponent. You want to get your knees off the ground. Okay, and it's one of the things that took my game to another level, was learning get up onto my toes, get my knees off the ground, start driving in, start to apply some pressure. Okay. Now, all of that is, all well, well and good for me to say, well, don't be on your knees. But, sometimes it's impossible. And later on, we're going to come into, stage 3 of knee injuries, which after impact and positional injuries is just general wear and tear injuries. Maybe you just had a long time in sport. Maybe you're just an old guy and you've got some degeneration of the knee tissue. Maybe you've got arthritis. What are you going to do then? If you can't avoid these positions, you need to be able to manage them. And one of the ways you can manage them is simply with knee pads. And some of the best knee pads that I've found are knee pads for volleyball. Okay. They tend to be readily available. I've never seen any or tried any wrestling specific ones, but a brand that I did like in the past was Cliff Keen, and they made a load of really nice sort of padded volleyball style ones. So from the knee pads, you're getting a couple of benefits. You're getting some impact resistance because they're padded. All right. So if you are kneeling down, if you are skipping your knee off the ground, in things, if you're particularly heavy legged with all of this, and you just you're not nimble, you're not light, and you're smashing your knee around, then a little bit of padding is going to go a long way. Not only that, you're going to get a little bit of compression out of it, which is a general benefit for aches and soreness, and you're going to get some heat into the area, which is a general benefit to soreness. So that's going to tie in later when we talk about warming up and ways to manage these things. So you've got warmth, you've got cushioning, and you've potentially got a little bit of support and constriction, some pressure in there. All of that's going to be good for impact style injuries. Okay. Now, impact injuries aside, when people talk about injuring their knees in BJJ, I think most often what they talk about is what I would call a positional injury. Okay, something has happened in a position and your knee's gone the wrong way and you've suffered an injury of some sort, whether it's gradual over time wearing down, or whether it's a catastrophic injury, one incident and something's gone pop. Usually with knee injuries, as I said at the beginning, it's rotational. All right, that's the real killer of a lot of the ligaments and meniscus inside your knee. Not so much the straightening. You've got a lot of muscle to overcome straightening a knee, and it has to be a really traumatic injury to get around that. Even knee bars, I've never seen anyone really significantly injured from a knee bar. Feel free to chime in the comments, you guys, if you have you've seen that. But really, I think we're talking about rotational injuries. The simplest way to deal with rotational injuries is be aware of what you're doing. Okay, anytime you're in a position where either your ankle is trapped or your hip is trapped, i.e., and when I say trapped, I mean is unable to move freely. Okay, unable to move freely, unable to rotate. That's when you're in trouble. Okay, because as jiu-jitsu, as submission artists, we know that to attack a limb, we need to control the next joint over. All right, so if that's the knee, generally it means we're either controlling at the heel or we're controlling at the hip, or preferably both ends, so we get the knee rotation isolated. So biggest piece of advice is for beginners is tap. All right, don't be a hero, don't be stubborn, don't think that you need to fight through something. Okay, so if you're not sure, if you're in doubt, tap is my default option. Okay, don't bear with something, and don't try and tough it out because I think I'm going to get better this way by toughing stuff out. Yeah, there's a time for learning this toughness, but also, there's a potential pitfall that you take 6 months out of the game, and what you would have gained in that 6 months just by pegging your enthusiasm back a little notch, maybe outweighs the potential downside of losing all of that training time. I want sparring to be as safe as it can be reasonably be while we try and simulate murder with people. Okay, so it's a rough and tumble sport. It's a contact sport. Injuries are going to come, but we need to be minimizing this with our attitude and looking after our training partners and being safe. If you've got that guy who comes from a Russian Sambo background and he's used to being in Spetsnaz, and every time he grabs your heel, he's trying to rip it off, he's probably not the best guy to be training with if you're just learning a leg lock system and a leg lock game. Counter to that, the biggest issue I see with beginners is people not recognizing when they're caught and trying to spin or go crazy to get out of things. Okay, so if your default escape to a leg lock is to thrash like crazy and spin like you're a crocodile trying to rip off a bison's leg, you need to chill out. Okay, so if you don't know which way you should be rolling, you shouldn't be rolling, you should be tapping. Okay, going with the submission is fine, but in the heat of the moment you go the wrong way, you end up putting the submission on harder, faster, and further than it would have gone if you just stayed where you were. So don't be stubborn. Don't train with crazy people. Okay, that's going to maximize your health and safety. And when you are, introducing yourself to footlocks, if you're not experienced with footlocks, start easy. Start with some drills. Start with some catch and release stuff. Don't throw yourself in at the deep end and go straight to heel hooks only sparring with Tarquinho. Just do yourself a favor. Go easy. Pick someone that can be trusted. Maybe someone more advanced in the leg locking system, and play from there. Get them to catch you, explain a little bit what's going on, which way you should be moving, what you should have done. Ease yourself into it. Don't go straight to crazy levels straight away. The biggest one, the biggest example of this for me is Coyote guard, the half guard that I can't remember his name now. You know who I mean, Leandro, who plays half guard and ends up trapping only the foot and then really cranking the foot out so that you end up with a really nasty hip lock, knee lock. And if you don't go with that, your knee can just explode. I've got a fly flying around here. All right. So sometimes you just need to give up a position or tap. All right. The problem with tapping to that is people don't recognize it as a legit submission. I'm in half guard. My foot is trapped. And you start trying to continue with your knee cut pass or whatever. And all of a sudden your knee makes tearing noises like popping carrots and ripping jeans. And then you look back and think, oh, I was only in half guard. What happened? All right. So awareness of these positions, as I said before, when your foot is trapped or when your hip is trapped, is going to put you in a good position. So sometimes you just need to go with these positions. I've seen it before where I do some catch wrestling type stuff from side control where I'll reach around to the leg and then I'll cradle with the head when your ACL snaps. So what can we do about these positions then? The majority of rotator injuries are going to come either from submissions, which we've dealt with, and also positions where we either get a ridiculous amount of internal rotation of the hip or external rotation of the hip. And usually it's positions like rubber guard, like that, where we end up smelling our own foot. Okay, so what I talk about smelling your own foot, should be fairly obvious to you, but if this foot's coming towards your face and you see I'm really not very flexible in the hip, if you're not flexible in the hip, what's going to tend to happen is your hip's probably not going to going to be injured. Your knee is going to take it. The next joint down is going to take it. And it's probably going to be an LCL injury, an injury to the ligament on the side of the knee. And it all came from smelling your own foot. So never let someone smell your own foot unless you can put your foot behind your head. All right. Now, I recommend that as a general thing for playing rubber guard and these extreme positions like that. If you're not extremely flexible through the hip, you've probably got no business playing these positions. All right. And the reason behind this is when you reach the end range of your flexibility, the end range of your joints range of motion, that's also where your muscles are weakest. Okay. So what's happening is you're resisting these positions, and then all of a sudden you reach the end, there's no more to give, and your muscles are not actively fighting against the further range of motion. It just becomes your ligaments. And what's going to happen is your ligaments are going to go, no, thank you very much. And they're going to, break, which is what we want to avoid. So that comes down to things that we can do to help. General increasing of your flexibility is going to help. And when I talk about flexibility, I'm not talking about knee flexibility. All right. That's not a thing. We want knees to be nice and stable, to be nice and tight. We want the hip, the ball joint of the hip, to be nice and flexible. So internal, external rotation, inside, outside, and we can find loads of stretches online for this. Look up some physical therapists. Look how we can improve flexibility of internal and external rotation of the hip, and it's going to see you, do very well. That's my biggest issue is rotation of my hips. And I've hurt my LCL 3 times in the past, and all 3 times it was my fault. 2 times was playing the dive under calf crush when a guy's got me in De La Riva. And 1 time I had the truck, the back control position in Eddie Bravo's system, and the guy reached down, grabbed my foot and started to pull it upwards. That time I recognized I was in trouble, thought I could get away with it, didn't tap. Stubbornness. And the second time and third time when I did the dive unders, as I dived under, I caught the calf crush really nice. I started to apply the force to tap him. And what happened was he just kind of sat back on me a little bit both times, and my foot came towards my face, and I didn't have a chance to tap. What I could have done in those positions was actually, and what I do now when I attack this position, is I triangle my legs. So now my leg is locked off from coming back towards my face by my other leg. So I've got a lot of force to apply there. And the good thing is that even when my foot is very close to my face, the support leg press to keep it away from me. So I should never, touch wood, get injured in that position again. So flexibility is going to help. The single biggest thing that has helped me and made my knees kind of more bulletproof in terms of injuries is strength. I'm not flexible, but I'm aware of my limitations. I don't go to end ranges of motion, and I start to lift. Simple stuff. But anything that's going to get strength into your legs, it could be calisthenics, you could do single leg stuff, you could do bilateral stuff. It doesn't matter. If you like to do pistols on your kitchen floor, cool, knock yourself out. Strength will help. Strength plus flexibility will help even more. So if you want to increase the range of motion in your hips, a very simple thing that I do as a warm-up every time is the Limber 11 by a trainer called Joe Franco, very famous guy, trains a lot of NFL guys in preparation for their NFL tests and whatnot. Do his Limber 11. Go to YouTube, or you're on YouTube later on, look for Limber 11, go through it. And a lot of it is dynamic stretching and just general preparedness of the hips for jiu-jitsu. So I combine his Limber 11 with a little something I created to warm up the upper body, and I do that with bands and band tension. If you guys are interested in that, leave some comments down below, and maybe one day when I in fact, I could do it at home. I could do it here in isolation. I could film my warm up and show you exactly what I do. So if that's something that's interesting, comment below. So warm up. Cannot stress this enough. If you're a purple belt, and I'm looking particularly at my student David Leatherby when I say this, warm up. Okay, it's going to help you so much. By the time you get to purple belt, you should know what you need to do to warm up and what you don't need to do. So you don't need to be doing the Gracie Barra count to 10 jumping jack stuff. If that works for you, cool. If that works for you, it's fine. But if you know something better, I like to get to my school a little bit in advance, and I like to do my own warm up when I'm not teaching class and running my own warm ups as I see fit. If that's you, get there early. Warm up before the warm up. Do your pre-warm up warm up, but you know that you're warmed up and ready to go. Getting heat into the area is just generally good for you. Okay, so warm up, increase your strength, increase your flexibility. And then when it comes to things like wear and tear, you just got generally bad knees. You haven't hurt yourself. You're old. You got that arthritis setting in. Then warming up is incredibly important. The older you get, the more you need to be preparing your joints for what is about to come, preparing the muscles for what is about to come. Warm muscles are pliable muscles. They're more flexible. They're less likely to tear when you get into bad positions, and so are your tendons and ligaments. So you can also dabble in ice and heat. I'm not an expert in these sort of things. Inflammation, ice, injury, you want to be icing it. After a while, once the inflammation's gone, encourage healing. You want to be heating. That's my general idea. And the kind of stock advice that you're going to get from a GP, from a hospital, etc., it's changed over my lifetime in sport. From yes, ice, to no ice, to okay, we do compression, and now we don't do compression. Because remember, a little bit of inflammation is useful for the healing process, but when inflammation gets out of control, it's incredibly detrimental to the healing process. So we need to control that. So again, I'm not a medical doctor. Seek your own advice. But my general sort of way that I deal with injuries, especially traumatic injuries, is a little bit of ice at the beginning. Once that initial swelling is under control, then we're on to heat for healing. Look at your diet. All right, there's a lot of talk these days about anti-inflammatory diets and anti-inflammatory supplements like turmeric and things like this. Now, filter out the rubbish, filter out the garbage from what you're being told, and somewhere along the line is probably, something useful. I'm not going to give you diet advice because it'd be the same as me giving you plumbing advice. And I'm a black belt in jiu-jitsu. I'm not a black belt in plumbing or in nutrition. Right now I'm on the keto diet. So if you've got any questions about keto diet and the way that I do it, because everyone's different and there's like a million different variations, but I'm more than happy to talk about that later. But try and find something that keeps inflammation under control for you, and if that involves cutting out sugar, if that involves cutting out carbs, if that involves reducing certain foods, cool. It's all something to look at, and there's a lot of research out there. You've just got to find the research that's good research. And then last but not least, there's a lot of supplements marketed to things like knee pain, joint pain, general, things that claim they can rebuild cartilage and that they can, strengthen whatnot, and there's peptides that you can inject into the joints directly. I don't recommend you do any of those. None of those have been tested on humans. If you buy them, they're marked for research only. don't go messing yourself up. I've tried things like chondroitin and MSM in the past, which are I can't remember what MSM stands for off the top of my head, but they're targeted at joint inflammation and things like that. I never noticed a single difference when I was on or off them. Some people swear by them, and whether that's a real effect or placebo effect, cool. If the thing is giving you an effect and it's cheap and not harming you in any other way, who cares? If it's giving you an effect, then cool. It's giving you an effect. Stick with it. For me, it didn't do anything. Most supplements for me, I've never really noticed any difference. I've taken a few over my time: beta alanine, glucosamine. What's the one? The one with actual research behind it? I can't remember. Bodybuilders all take it. Powder. I can't remember. If you remember, tell me in the comments, and I'll look back in a second, and we'll get there. But again, these are things that you can look at. So to summarize, knee injuries are going to come in a few different ways. They're going to come from impact. They're going to come from rotational or positional injuries, and they're going to come from just general wear and tear. And if you follow the guidelines, warm up, get yourself strong, get yourself flexible, don't put yourself in bad positions, don't be stubborn, don't train with crazy people, you're probably going to have a good time, and you're probably going to have very rock solid knees. I mean, touch wood, I've not had a knee injury in many years now. The better you get at jiu-jitsu, the more you can protect yourself, obviously. The worse you are at jiu-jitsu, the less of a say that you have in what's going on. Creatine. Yes, creatine is the one that actually is about the only supplement that actually has some good research behind it. I never noticed a difference, and I think that the published data says that creatine is going to give you somewhere between like a 1% and 2% increase, something like that. So there's a definite increase, but it's minimal. But again, it's cheap, and if you like it, and if you can stand taking it all the time, then hell, creatine monohydrate, a month's supply is pennies. Why not? So, hope you enjoyed our little chat about stopping knee injuries. Feel free to comment if I've missed something. I'm going to go through the comments in a second. Feel free to comment if you've had a knee injury in the past and what you did wrong, if anything, and then how did you treat it? Let me know how you treated it, and we'll see what people are saying. All right, so let's look through some comments. We're going back. Bauerfeind knee pads support. All right, Bauerfeind. I've never heard of them. Cool, check them out. Like I say, I don't wear knee pads. I don't have any problems. I tend to play a game that's not heavy on me smashing my knee into the ground, and I don't tend to apply guard. Yeah, that's really common. Sometimes you're going to have to adjust your game. So certain guards are going to be a lot safer than others. Close guard, it's very difficult for you to hurt your knees. Very difficult. Something like De La Riva, especially if you're playing very straight on in front of the guy and you're not shuffling your bum off. If you watch some of my videos on De La Riva guard where I talk about moving to the outside, the closer you are to the midline of your opponent, if he starts flaring his knees out, especially if you've got big feet, it gets caught, and a lot of that pressure goes to your ankle and your knees. If you like to play lasso guard and the guy likes to smash you on your lasso guard, well, maybe you have to change, because certain guards are going to leave you more risk to this over rotation of your hip, and that's not something you want. I know Lachlan Giles had a really nice video a little while back on how to enter into the inside saddle position without hurting your knee. I think it was a response to how Gordon Ryan hurt his knee. And he talks about the same things, avoiding that internal rotation of the knee, or internal over rotation of the knee. Protect yourself with the positions that you put yourself in. Don't put yourself into compromised positions. Okay, if you can do that, you're going to have a better time. Being caught in half guard, then looking to pass, is when I feel vulnerable with regards to the knee. I keep my weight off it as much as possible so it's not on the mat. What's your preferred pass here? So passing half guard, I tend to like to sit to control the head and then sit through and poke my knee up through the middle between us. All right, it's a little bit hard to explain in person, but I don't like knee cuts. So I don't tend to do, and I have very long legs. I'm 6'4" tall, so I don't tend to do the driving in, tripoding up with my bum really high, and then cutting the knee through. I don't do it a lot. I teach it because not all my students are me, but I've got into some problems with that. I remember fighting a guy at the ADC, the Abu Dhabi Pro Trials, when I was a purple belt, and I fought like a 150 kilo guy from Gracie Barha, Hungary, and all he did was lock on in half guard, and I passed in the end, but it wasn't good for my knees. So I like to control the head, turn into them a little bit, and then pop my free knee through to act as a wedge against the hips, so that I can then start opening his legs and backstepping out of the half guard. I also like to do, and a lot of this is very much Rodolfo Vieira. So if you watch Rodolfo Vieira and how he passes half guard that way, and then backstepping into sort of like knee bar territory, scooting out that way. And I find all of that's really nice on my knees. One of the ways that you can do it, if you like to pressure in and free your leg, is get really good pressure, and then instead of driving to the knee cut, drive the other way and try and drive to mount. Okay. Tends to keep your knee in a much better alignment than trying to knee cut. You have to be real careful with the knee cut. Knee cutting is one of the ways I see people get injured quite a bit, and it's because your foot is trapped again. And if you're twisting, especially if you don't align and keep aligned your knee and your hip, you're going to have a bad time with it. Tony, both my knees were injured from the warm-ups. I believe I strained them and now have tendonitis. I also have some deep pain when I flex my knees completely, so I'm concerned I have something else. See a doctor. If you're getting constant pain, constant tendonitis, if you're getting pain when you're compressing the joint fully, first port of call would be to see a medical professional of some sort, whether that's a specialist, GP. GP, for those who don't know, means general practitioner. So that what do they call those in America? Your physician. Go see your physician. Or see a very good sports therapist, a physiotherapist. If you can find someone like, Lachlan and Livia, those guys who have intimate knowledge of the sport that you're doing, it's really good. Over here, we have Rosie Sexton, who's a physiotherapist, and obviously she fought in the UFC. She understands, the rigors that we put ourselves through, and hopefully get us back on the mats. So if you're injuring yourself in the warm-ups, a couple of things can be going on here. One is you've done something and something is pre-existing, and then the warm-ups is flaring that up. Or two, your warm-ups are just crazy. So again, I don't know what you're doing as a warm-up, but that might be something to look at. If your coach is getting you to do some crazy stuff as a warm-up, well, maybe you need to do a warm-up before the warm-up. Warm-up for the warm-up. Yeah, I'm an older guy. Yeah, Tony, it's very common. So you need to be looking at the things that I mentioned towards the end, the mitigation of the wear and tear type stuff. Just make sure there's no underlying problem first, okay? Because there's general achiness and there's a problem which is going to cause things down the line. So if there is a problem that needs treated, then you can do all the stuff that we talked about within the video. Let's go back up. Have I ever thought about teaching teens jiu-jitsu? Yeah, I used to teach a kids class and teens in the past. I don't do it anymore because, frankly, teaching younger people is really, really hard work. I'd like to get one of my students to a point where they can take this on, and I hire them to take it on. So we'll see. Maybe in the future. Just Jay, yeah, for sure. Band exercise would be good to see. All right, maybe I'll do a video one day on the band stuff and how I warm up my upper body, especially for jiu-jitsu. Mark Daniel, squats, Bulgarian spots, along with hip openers, yoga flows, and take rest days when I'm sore. Works so far for me. Yeah, perfect. That's all really good stuff. So you're getting a little bit of strength there from the squats and the hip openers. You're getting that warm up. You're getting that blood flow into the area, a bit of heat. And if it works for you, fantastic. Again, there's no one size fits all with this. Like in my classes when I teach, before I do the warm up, I give people a few minutes to do their own little bits where if you've got a problem or a problem area, you pay more attention to that area, then we do the warm up. Because everyone's specific, you know. I have to do neck, tight hamstrings. Maybe you need to pay particular attention to that. So whatever's working for you. Green-lipped mussels, devil's claw, maybe. Are they supplements? I've never heard of them. So if they're supplements, Eddie Bravo, look into it. Rosie Codex. Yes, I changed how I play butterfly guard and started lifting. Most of my knee discomfort is gone. Yeah, cool. Lifting for me was like the biggest thing, that my knees just suddenly felt so much better, you know, just from doing squats, deadlifts and stuff. Decently heavy, 5 reps, mosquito flying past me. And that was it. My knees felt a lot better. At various points when I've had knee injuries, I've had to change the way that I play. You know, maybe I triangle on one side where before I used to triangle a lot on the other. So whatever's going to work for you, make those changes. Give yourself the best chance to be healthy. Just Jay, got to shoot off. If you go through the diet stuff, that'll be good too. Yeah, I can go through some keto stuff. So if people are interested in what I'm eating at the moment, you know, I'll chat about what I'm eating and the keto diet as I understand it. Again, I'm no expert on nutrition. I'll just talk about what I'm doing, if that's interesting to you. Mark Warby, hi, I have a question. When passing, when do you choose to pass using pressure over passing quickly by stepping away, then trying to pass the legs, body to get cyclotron? Good question. And the answer is going to depend on you, and it's going to depend on your opponent. All right. I talked about this a little bit in the previous Q&A, I think, where everything that I choose to do in jiu-jitsu is a result of the set of circumstances that I find myself in. So if I have a certain inclination, a certain body type, a certain set of attributes, and my opponent has a certain set that is mirroring or is conflicting with mine, or it's going to direct me to make certain decisions. So if you're a heavy dude and you've got a load of pressure, well, maybe you like to pressure pass. If you're a very nimble and light dude, maybe you like to move quicker. You know, especially if you're a lighter, faster dude fighting a heavier guy, a heavier, slower guy. Maybe those pressure passes are not so good. Maybe you want to speed the game up and take advantage there. All right. Flip side, that heavy guy, he probably wants to slow the game down, bring you down to his pace where he can use strength and size to control things a bit more. So it's going to change. And for me, yeah, I'm 6'4" and I'm 100 kilos, but I'm pretty athletic and pretty quick. So I can mix my passing between smashing and between moving quick, nimble passes, more distance passes. And most people can as well, to certain levels of success. You can also think of it as if you're starting on the very outside, then you can think of it as a phases of distance thing. So very far away, I'm going to try certain passes. And then as I get closer, my passes are going to change. So maybe far out, you start with your things, your speed passes, your Toriando style passes, your X style passes. And if they're not working, cool. Then we go closer and closer and we move into more smashy passes. I tend to find with certain people, certain passes are just going to work better. And you've got to have the ability to think on the fly and think, all of these passes I'm trying, the guy's just, sometimes really flexible guys, if you're like really pressure passing them, really pressure passing them, they can maintain their flexibility and they can recompose guard and they can go upside down. Sometimes a little bit outside and a faster pass, takes out that flexibility option. Sometimes it doesn't. And you've got to be able to think on the fly, which is why we like jiu-jitsu, isn't it? Because it's a problem-solving exercise. Where's my water? Yeah, guys answering in the things. Yeah. Up, down, left, right passing. Yeah, true. Go all the way, all the directions and different styles, and you're going to have some success eventually. That's the thing. Again, for me, it's solving a puzzle, isn't it? And eventually I'm going to solve that puzzle, So if it's not this, if I throw something at it, I try one key in the lock and that key doesn't work, I'm going to keep trying the keys. I'm going to keep trying the keys that I've got on my bunch. And the better you get at jiu-jitsu, the better your keys will be and the more of them you'll have. So things will start working more. Use your old man strength. Yeah. Over underpass like Bernardo. Yeah, Bernardo's fantastic at it. And one of my students, who I gave some crap to earlier for not doing the warm-up, he loves Bernardo, loves his half guard stuff, loves his over under stuff. And he's really fantastic at it. Yeah, Mark, I actually remember you from Mill Hill, the Warby. I remember. And thanks very much for watching. Cheers, man. So we're coming up on 50 minutes. I've talked a little bit about knees and things. So some people are still watching, which is nice. If you've got some more questions, throw me some more questions. Who's left in the comments? Who's left? Anyone here? Oh, look at this hip flexibility. So, yeah, Rosie Codex, did I address the double leg question? Yes. Yes, I did. But I'll recap in general. You can always go back when this comes live later after it's finished. You can check it out. But in general, if you're smashing your knees off the floor in a double leg, then maybe you need to think about changing the way that you do a double leg, where either you're being more graceful or you'll step a different way, or you can wear knee pads. And we had a big discussion on the whole knee pads thing. So that's it. That's how I save myself during double legs. Any other questions, guys? Oh, water's hiding. Oh, One Credits classes. So this is famous MMA judge Ben Cartilage. Check out his channel, One Credit Classics. He does vintage retro gaming, and he's really good. God damn this mosquito! I interviewed Diamond Dallas Page. Oh, that's a throwback. Ages ago when I wrote for Fighters Only. He talked loads about DDP yoga, and I was wondering if you tried anything similar. Yoga calisthenics hybrid style stuff. No, I haven't tried any real yoga. My experience of yoga is more with the breathing techniques of yoga, which arguably I find more valuable than the asanas, than the postures. The one thing I have had some experience with is Gymnastica Natural, and I talked about this in the previous live Q&A that we did. The kind of flow movements, which is basically what it sounds like you're talking about. It's a yoga calisthenics hybrid, and it's movements, and I find that really useful, and it's actually quite interesting. Whereas I find the kind of static yoga particularly boring, to be honest. And I'm not into the hippie stuff either. So certain people are going to gravitate to yoga because of the lifestyle and the I don't know, tree hugging kind of thing that goes with it. When I looked into yoga, the things that really interested me was the breathing and meditation aspects rather than the extreme flexibility aspects. But Gymnastica Natural is awesome. And if you get the chance to train with Alvaro Romero, I didn't say that in a Portuguese accent, Alvaro Romero, then get the chance, then take it, because it's really good. Any of this, it's not for me to say, but if you find it useful and you enjoy doing it, i.e. you're going to do it, because I don't enjoy stretching, therefore I don't do it, which is why my flexibility is terrible. But if you find something interesting like Diamond Dallas Page, if you find that DDP yoga interesting and useful and beneficial to you, cool, crack on with it. Do it all you can. What's up, Pep? How's it going, man? So Pep's the MMA coach with me here. Not here. Not in my loft. If you have terrible knees and or leg problems, would you change your style, as in not go for leg locks? Potentially, because the problem with a lot of people when they go for leg locks is they leave themselves open to counter leg locks. Mosquito. I need to kill these mosquitoes before I do more live streams. So if you're going for a leg lock and you're not careful, you're automatically exposing your own leg to counter leg locks. So either you need to be very good at protecting your own legs while you attack leg locks, or you need to be changing your game. And again, sometimes you've just got to take the hit and say, I'm not gonna do this stuff, right? Because jiu-jitsu is massive, and there's so much in it that you can afford to cut a little bit away and suffer no ill effects. Do you know what I mean? I don't know all of jiu-jitsu, and when I roll, I don't do all of jiu-jitsu. I do a fair amount, a decent amount, but I don't know everything, and I don't do everything. I don't play rubber guard. I'm not flexible enough for rubber guard. And you can play rubber guard if you're not flexible. You have to create angles. You have to get off to the side. But you're never going to be playing it like Eddie, where he's flat on his back and his legs, up super high. So you've got to make adjustments to what you're doing. I know Brandon McCagran, people think that rubber guard is his flexibility thing. and he says it's not. Yeah, okay, you can play a lot of your rubber guard stuff with angles, and you can decrease the amount that you need. It's still really beneficial though, and that's not me. So my game has to adapt to meet my physical limitations. All right, if I'm trying to do something that is going to work so much better if I was 5'2", then at 6'4", I'm probably going to have to cut that out of my game. Mark Warby. So in your classes and your warm-ups, how much is flexibility warm-ups over traditional warm-ups, i.e. shrimps, etc.? Not a huge amount in the typical warm-ups that we do. My typical warm-up goes something like this. A few minutes to do your own stretching, and usually I encourage people to do dynamic stretching within that, and I'll show them some dynamic stretches if they're not sure. And then we come into the warm-ups, and the warm-ups generally tend to be break falls, shrimps, movements that we're going to use that day in the technique portion. So if the technique was, say, I don't know, escaping mount via bridging, then I would make sure that there was some bridging in the warm-ups, so that when I came to teach the technique, I can refer back to the warm-up and say, remember that thing we did in the warm-up where we bridged, and okay, now we're going to do that. So that's when I encourage people to do their flexibility stuff. All right, and if people ask me, I can point them in certain directions. Sometimes I do change, and I do more of a gymnastica naturale style warm-up, where we do flow movements and stuff, where we do dynamic stretching. And I tend to favor dynamic stretching over static stretching, especially as a warm-up. I still think that the majority of research right now favors dynamic stretching before training, and then after training, doing your static stuff as more of a cool down. Correct me if I'm wrong, anyone. Pep, cool. I'm glad that was the answer. Yeah, sometimes you got to change what you're doing. Cool, guys. So we're coming up to an hour. There's still a few of you watching. So I'll just take any last questions that you guys have got, and we'll start winding it down. So get your questions in the comments if you want a few last ones answering. You enjoyed yourself so far, the guys that are left? Sponsored by Rubicon. Not really, but if anyone from Rubicon is watching, I will accept fruit juices. Let's see if anyone texted me during. Oh yeah, I did get a text. Thank you. Ah, cool. So yeah, thanks for watching. Okay, is anyone still there? Does anyone still want questions answering? Andrew, sweet thumbnail. Yeah, the Family Guy thumbnail. I thought it was fairly fitting for the subject matter. Anytime anyone gets a knee injury, I just think of Peter Griffin. All right, okay. No one seems to be typing anything, so we'll wind this down. Thank you very much. As soon as this is done, it'll go live back again on YouTube at some point, so you'll be able to rewatch if you missed anything, if you dipped in and out, which most people are going to do. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Okay, so thanks very much for watching, guys. We'll see you again. I'll post a little bit in advance of when I do the next one, and we'll see you again. Thanks a lot.